They must have expected that to some extent, though, right?
Yes. Oh, totally. But I think there was always some uncertainty about the schedule and frequency of booster shots. And so I'm going to use this opportunity to talk to Google, and let's see what's going on with their stock price over this time. So we'll go to Moderna. And how do you think their stock before we show it? How do you think their stock has moved like over the last, like from pre-COVID through COVID to now?
Well, I think from pre-COVID, their stock price was probably a little on the lower end, and then throughout COVID kind of just shot up because it was getting so much use, and then has kind of like in the post-COVID era has been kind of going back down.
Well, let's see. We'll do this full screen. So this is, and I'm going to, so this is the 5-year stock price for Moderna, and they went, so this is the last 5 years. So this is going back to 2018. And Olivia, you were exactly right. And by the way, so COVID is like starting to become a thing around here. Like a lot of the lockdowns are happening in March of 2020. And you can see, by the way, that the stock price is going up, but we were full blown lockdown, like things were bad in May, and the stock isn't anywhere near what it peaked at. And some of that is that, remember, like at this time, there was uncertainty about whether a vaccine would get improved. And this mRNA vaccine was totally unproven. It had never been used before, right? So here, there was an expectation. They're like, oh, the market knows that Moderna is working on a drug, but they don't know how effective it'll be. And then I think it got approved in like late 2020. And as I recall, I think I started getting my like first and second doses in like April. So tell me about that. The stock is now, so in mid-April of 2021, it was at like $170 a share, which is well above the 69. It's like more than doubled from when COVID was a big thing because it got approved and was actually getting used. But tell me about this spike. Like, why do you think the stock might have kept going up even after this point?
I think people probably predicted that this new vaccine was going to be administered widely and over a certain period, like over a long period of time to some extent.
The long period of time is the critical component of that, because I totally agree. And it really came down to, in this period of time from June into July and August, now booster shots were starting to get promoted. And there was this possibility at the time that everybody who got their first and second shot might continue to get boosters every 6 months. And so that would be this like forever recurring revenue stream for Moderna. But of course, what did we just see in the financial statements? Has that borne out or not?
No,
their revenue went from, $6 billion a quarter to like $2 billion a quarter. And so I think that is where then, as the market came to see that it might not be quite as recurring of a thing, the stock went back down. But look, it's still 120, right? So it's still, about double where it was in peak of COVID before they had a drug approved. So that is kind of the Moderna story that we can see in the stock price. And now we have some financials to support it, which is basically they have a strong balance sheet. They're continuing to invest in research and development. And in fact, they're invested double the amount. They invested over $1 billion in R&D in the first 3 months of this year, which is more than double what they invested in the first 3 months of last year. But their revenues come down. And so this is kind of like the fun stuff of understanding these financial statements, is it's really hard to get into some of the jargon. But once you know how to read these statements and you know what to look for, you can start to look over time and see how the story of the financial statements aligns with the story of the stock price.